Hello everyone, my name is Shirley, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new rotation for Arms Warriors in patch 8.0. Now this is the pre-patch before Battle for Azeroth comes out. It will change at level 120, but right now during the pre-patch, some things have interesting interactions now with our gear sets at 110 still, so we're going to take a look at the optimal single target rotation today. And also gear, and we're going to jump right into it. The first things first is you want to have these two legendaries now. They added the ability to buy specific legendaries now in Dalaran, so go ahead and farm these up if you can. We'll be using these in conjunction with the tier set from Taurus, but they are Archivon's Heavy Hand, which makes Mortal Strike cost less rage, and Weight of the Earth, which are the Heroic Leap pants that apply Colossus Smash to your target. Now these haven't been disabled, even though Colossus Smash works differently now. So if you didn't know, Colossus Smash is now a standard cooldown. Let me change that talent real quick so you can see it here. It's 45-second cooldown and just increases the damage you deal to the target by 30% for 10 seconds. So it no longer procs and resets like it did during Legion. But these pants still work with it, so you can get really good uptime on Heroic Leap to just use, or on Colossus Smash using Heroic Leap, and Bounding Stride really synergizes well with these pants. So, would recommend these two things. Last note on the gear is Mastery has been seriously undervalued now. We stacked it just out the ass beforehand. Now, unfortunately, it's not very good, so dust off all that old gear you had laying around in your bags, because it's the least valuable stat right now. Try to put on some crit and haste, I would recommend. Even versatility is better than mastery, but crit and probably strength second is what you want to roll. So once you get your crit up and your mastery down a little bit, you'll be doing a lot better. Anyway, moving on to the talents. This is, as you guys can see on screen, the standard single-target build for raid boss encounters, basically, using these two legendaries, of course, with it. So, going over the first row real quick here. This row doesn't matter, actually. I changed that beforehand. But the first row, we're going to be using Skull Splitter, which is a new attack on a cooldown. It's 20 seconds reduced by haste, so it's 17 seconds for me right now. They recently buffed this, so it does more damage. The rage generation is the same, though. And they nerfed Sudden Death at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but a little ways back on the beta, so where it procs less. So Skull Splitter just really smooths out the rotation and gives you tons of free rage every 17 seconds or so. So, really would recommend using this, and we'll get into how to actually use it in a little bit here. The second row, I would recommend Double Time, because you're getting more rage generation off of your charge. So you can, you're not going to be leaping out anymore because of the legendary, so you're going to be leaping, you know, for the damage component now, but Double Time is still recommended. The third row, Massacre is a very attractive choice still, especially on fights that have long execute phases like Argus. So you might pick this up for specific fights, but generally speaking, you're going to be using Rend right now for single target. It's good damage. They buffed it, the duration, a little bit over Legion's iteration, so it lasts 12 seconds now instead of 8. Bounding Stride, we're using this for obvious reasons with pants. The 75 tier row doesn't matter in single target. None of these directly impact single target. These are all AoE talents. If you know that an ad's going to spawn or something, you might want to pick up Warbreaker for some burst on it, or even collateral damage, but for the most part, don't worry about this row for single target anyway. The 90 row, In for the Kill, gives us haste. It still works kind of the same way as it did in Legion, but it's 20% now if you're in execute range. Avatar is a very comparable option right now, especially if you know you're going to need the burst in a specific point in a fight. But for pure throughput, In for the Kill synergizes extremely well with Anger Management, so it's going to take the cake here. Moving on to this row, Anger Management, great talent. It reduces the cooldown on Warbreaker, or Colossus Smash in this case, and Bladestorm now by 1 second. And once again, we are actually going to be using Bladestorm in single target, which I'm a fan of. We haven't done this since Tomb. The other two talents, Dreadnought is decent. It really buffs up your burst window if you need that. Ravager, on the other hand, just kind of falls behind at the moment. This might get some uses in real heavy AoE fights when you need the cooldown reduction, but at the moment, anger management is the way to go for single target. Now, if you don't have these legendaries, you could supplement with some of the old rings. The execute ring is okay still. It doesn't proc very often, so it's not that great. The class ring is actually pretty good. Soul of the Battlelord, which would give you anger management, so you could take Dreadnought if you wanted with that. The Great Storm's Eye is good for AoE situations, but I would really recommend picking up these two now that you can. So anyway, how to actually play the spec now, demonstrating here. I'm in Undercity because I thought it would be fitting. But for single target, basically the idea is to keep up Rend all the time, obviously, and refresh it within 3 to 4 seconds of it falling off, and using Skull Splitter on cooldown to keep that rage generation flowing, provided you're not rage capped, of course. And then you're going to be refreshing Mortal Strike or using it on cooldown every time it comes up, because our mastery changed, and Mortal Strike applies our new mastery, which is a bleed, deep wounds. So Execute, Mortal Strike, and Blade Storm will apply this. So you'll want to keep this up all the time. Overpower buffs our Mortal Strike damage, but don't worry about keeping it buffed all the time. It's more important to just use Mortal Strike on cooldown rather than throw in an Overpower first. So the way that this is going to look is you're going to charge in, you're going to get up your Ren first, and then you're immediately going to Skull Splitter to get that rage generation. And then we're going to go into your burst window, which is Colossus Smash, and out of that you will immediately Mortal Strike into a Blade Storm. And we do this because this will allow us to get a second Mortal Strike in during that Colossus Smash window. Now, don't pay attention too much to how I'm doing this, I'm just trying to demonstrate, but you will once again keep using Skull Splitter on cooldown and using your Overpower as that filler proc when it comes in, and then Slam when you have nothing else left to do. And also, whenever the Colossus Smash debuff falls off from Warbreaker, if you're using this legendary, you'll immediately come like this and jump to reapply the debuff. Now, it doesn't do the direct damage that Colossus Smash would do, but it does apply the Colossus Smash debuff. So this allows really good uptime. And using the anger management talent means that all the rage you spend is going to be continuously reducing the cooldown on your Warbreaker or Colossus Smash and Blade Storm. So every other standard Warbreaker cast, not including Heroic Leaping, you'll be able to throw in a Blade Storm during your burst window, which really smooths things out. And it's great for cleave if it does come up. So I'm going to wait 15 seconds here and kind of demonstrate this in real time so you guys get a good understanding of it. But as far as AoE situations go, touching on that real quick, you'll throw in Sweeping Strikes now, which is on-use ability rather than it being a passive, and keep using your Mortal Strike and your Rend even, Skull Splitter, everything single target will cleave now. You basically will just use your standard single target rotation on a two-target cleave environment, but throwing in Whirlwinds at higher counts. So 4 or 5 targets, you'll be replacing Mortal Strike with Whirlwind. And of course, you know, Blade Storm with Warbreaker is great. You could spec an Avatar for that. Anyway, going back to our single target, what this actually looks like. So we're going to charge in, pop our Ren, get Skull Splitter up, apply Colossus Smash, Mortal Strike, immediately Blade Storm. Now, normally I wouldn't have quite this much rage, but we're going to ignore that for the moment. Come out of the Blade Storm into another Mortal Strike, reapplying our Rend. Colossus Smash is falling off, so you're going to jump to reapply it, and just keeping that Mortal Strike on cooldown. Now, normally I would Skull Splitter right there, but I had so much rage left over, I waited a second. So we're going to go ahead and use that, get that back up, and just keep spending as much rage as we possibly can, as fast as we can, to get the Colossus Smash back up, and just keeping that debuff rolling. Now, you will find a situation here where it will eventually fall off, and that's fine, you know, but it's a very short window, so you're going to reapply that, jump back in, and just keep that debuff rolling. And that's basically it. You just rinse, repeat, use Blade Storm again once it comes back up, and that's about all there is to it, guys. Before we go, I actually forgot one thing. How does Execute play into the rotation now? Basically, it works the same way as it did in Legion, except it no longer has the execution or precision stacking mechanic on the target. So this becomes your filler. You will still apply Rend, use Skull Splitter, use Overpower, everything during the execute phase, but once you get 2 stacks of the Overpower buff, then you can go ahead and Mortal Strike during the execute phase. Otherwise, you're going to be spending your Rage on execute now, just primarily. That'll change at 120 because of the Azeroth stuff, but that's for another day. As far as how ARMS is doing right now in the grand scheme of things, Fury, if you're using the correct legendaries, is inching it out right now, but it's not by a huge margin. I wouldn't worry about it too much. We'll have a Fury video in the near future. I'll be going over its single target rotation as well. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them down below. If you learned something new, please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time. Peace.